So this morning I look at my pre-market and I see that Marvell's up somewhere around 4%. And then when the market opens, I see it goes up to 9 and then to 10. And I said, I wonder what's going on. Well, whenever I have a question like that, I go first to Seeking Alpha and look for an article. And I find that they had a press release yesterday that they explained that they were marketing their XPU to Amazon, and then they had another commitment, and it believed that that was going to be the author did that was going to be Microsoft. And I said, what's an XPU? I know what a GPU is, and I know what a CPU is. And as I read further, I see that it says that this is an attachment, a small attachment that you put to a CPU, and it makes it more efficient. It uses less electricity, it creates less heat, and it brings down the cost, and it's going to change the way that data centers are constructed. And I thought, well, they can't be the only person that has come up with a GPU, and I find out that Broadcom also has it, and I think, well, I need to go to Samantha and get to the bottom of this. So what I did was, Samantha had done a deep research on Marvell back in March, and had given me some projections that looked pretty strong. And so I've owned Marvell for since March, and I thought, well, I wonder if this is going to upgrade or improve their stock performance in the future. So I took the analysis she did for me in March, and I copied that, and then I created some specific more questions that where do they fit in the market, and what is a GP or XPU, and who are the key players, and how is this going to change, Samantha, your estimation of what the price of the stock is going to be in January 26, 27, and 28, and how, and again, what is your score going to be relative to the probability of them achieving that moderate projection that you gave me, and then upgrade the projections. And so the whole prompt was some, and then I included links to the articles on Seeking Alpha, and also the press releases from Marvell. And the prompt turned out to be 18 pages long. Yeah. So I threw it at Samantha, and it took her about 10 minutes, and she came back, and I thought, my goodness, this is something my tribe needs to know. And they need to put, it needs to be in a format. So I've put it on my tell sheet, and it's there in the document form. It's a 9-page document. And then I gave it to Samantha and Bard and said, okay, make a podcast of it. And what I really want you to do is listen to that podcast. I know you'd rather me read the thing. No, I'm dyslexic. I cannot read you the document, and I'm not going to embarrass myself and such. Timothy wrote me yesterday about me misspelling the word portfolio on my thumbnail, and I explained to him, I'm dyslexic. I can't spell worth a damn, and I don't have a spell check on my Photoshop where I make the thumbnail. Now, when I write the title, yeah, Google or YouTube, I guess, checks that, but no, and you'll see that, and he and I went through it, and we're friends again. But with that, I want you to listen, learn what an XPU is, and then you'll see that this has increased. Samantha's increased the price she thinks that Marvell will be because of this on January of 26, 27, and 28, and also raises the score from 50 to 70% probability that they'll achieve the 2028 price. So listen to this, and then if you're new to this channel and you like this kind of information, at the end I'll share with you how you can get access to this on a daily basis. Because if something changes, I go to Samantha and I say, tell me. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to another deep dive. You know, the relentless explosion of AI, it's demanding so much more from our computers, isn't it? It's really pushing the limits of, well, traditional chip design.
Absolutely. We're definitely seeing a shift.
Yeah, a fundamental rethinking, really, of how data centers get built, how they're powered, interconnected, all of it. But what if the future isn't just about, faster general purpose chips?
What if it's something else?
Exactly. Something that entirely new, maybe custom built right from the ground up, specifically for AI's, well, let's face it, its insatiable demand.
Precisely. And as Kerry's AI agents from Best of Us Investors, I'm Bard.
And I'm Samantha.
And you've asked us to take a really close look at a fascinating company right at the forefront of this shift. Marvell Technology. That's ticker MRVL.
And specifically their groundbreaking XPU technology.
Right. So our mission today is really to unpack Kerry Grinkmeyer's latest analysis. This one's dated June 15, 2025. We're going to explain what an XPU actually is, how it's fundamentally reshaping both the semiconductor and the data center industries.
Okay. And where Marvell fits in with its competitors, because it's getting pretty fierce out there.
Definitely. And then we'll dive deep into the updated insights on MRVL's competitive standing, its immense growth potential, those revised stock price projections for January 2026, 2027, and 2028.
Plus an adjusted performance score, considering this whole XPU innovation.
Exactly. It's a key piece of the puzzle.
That really sets the stage perfectly.
Yeah.
So let's kick things off. Let's define this central concept first. XPU. It's a term we're hearing everywhere in tech now. What exactly does this mysterious X stand for? What kind of processing unit are we really talking about here?
Okay, so a key aspect here, and what's really fascinating, is that XPU stands for X processing unit. That X is basically a powerful placeholder for specialized computing domains. Think AI, graphics, networking, that kind of thing.
So not just one thing. X is variable.
Correct. Now, unlike your general purpose CPUs, the main brains of a computer, or even GPUs, which are great for parallel tasks like graphics, XPUs are different. They're what we call heterogeneous or domain-specific processors.
Okay, domain-specific, like specialists?
Exactly. Think of them as highly application-specific accelerators, like custom-tailored suits designed for very particular jobs, AI inference, maybe vision processing, complex networking, but, and this is key, with vastly greater efficiency.
So if I'm getting this right, they're not trying to be a jack-of-all-trades chip. They're really purpose-built for specific heavy-duty problems. That sounds like a pretty fundamental departure from, traditional chip thinking.
It absolutely is. And they can function standalone, or they can act as co-processors, sort of combining the flexibility of a CPU with the parallel power of a GPU.
Best of both worlds, maybe.
In a way, yeah. The overarching goal is always higher performance and, crucially, better energy efficiency through these custom architectures. We're not talking minor tweaks here. These are fundamentally re-architected pieces of silicon. And importantly, XPUs are often delivered as ASICs. That's application-specific integrated circuits, or as advanced SoCs, systems on a chip.
So like a whole mini computer on one chip?
Pretty much, yeah. Highly optimized for its specific domain. By tailoring that architecture so precisely, they execute tasks much, much faster and use significantly less power than a one-size-fits-all CPU could ever hope to. And that really underpins Marvell's whole strategy, creating these custom chips, their XPUs, specifically for the most demanding AI workloads out there.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for handling these huge AI demands. But how does Marvell's XPU specifically fit into this? I mean, what makes their approach unique in this XPU landscape?
Good question. Marvell's XPU specifically refers to their custom AI accelerator architecture. If you look at their recent announcements, they detail these custom XPU chips that integrate really advanced compute silicon with high bandwidth memory, HBM.
HBM, right? That super fast memory you need for AI models.
Yeah. Exactly. Crucial for feeding those massive models. And they combine that with other chiplets, all inside one package. So these are specialized AI processors, but they're co-designed in deep collaboration with the hyperscale cloud customers.
Big guys, Amazon, Microsoft.
Those are the ones, they're building the backbone of this AI era. And a truly differentiating innovation from Marvell is their use of co-packaged optics, or CPO. This lets multiple XPU chips be linked directly on the package using optical fibers.
Wait, optical fiber, like on the chip package itself? That sounds revolutionary for scaling things up. What does that really let you do?
It's a game changer. The CPO tech allows data to travel at much, much higher bandwidth and, critically, over far longer distances. We're talking like 100 times the reach of traditional copper connections.
100 times, wow.
Yeah, it's not just a number, it's really a paradigm shift for how you design data centers. Imagine building an AI supercomputer where the chips aren't just restricted to the board they sit on, but they can communicate across entire racks maybe even rows within the data center, almost like they were right next to each other. It just breaks down those old physical barriers.
So it allows a single AI server to scale way up.
Exactly. From maybe tens of XPUs to potentially hundreds of interconnected XPU chips spanning multiple racks. It's fundamentally reshaping the physical and the logical architecture of these massive data centers.
So the key is tailoring the chip architecture for peak efficiency and then connecting them all with this completely new level of speed and reach using optics. That's a powerful combination. What are the bigger implications here for data center design, for AI capability overall? How is this XPU trend really changing the semiconductor and data center industries?
Well, if we zoom out a bit and connect this to the bigger picture, the entire semiconductor industry is going through this profound transformation. We're definitely moving away from relying solely on general-purpose chips.
Towards these specialized ones.
Towards these domain-specific accelerators, yeah. It's driven by the incredibly diverse and, frankly, escalating demands of modern computing, especially AI. Traditional chip architectures just can't keep pace with the scale and the efficiency needed for today's AI models.
Makes sense.
And for data centers, XPUs are becoming absolutely crucial. They enable this unprecedented scaling of AI infrastructure. They provide the essential plumbing, not just the raw compute, but also the memory, and maybe most importantly, that ultra-fast connectivity needed for these huge AI server clusters.
Like Marvell's CPO solution.
Exactly. That's not just boosting performance per server. It's unlocking entirely new architectural possibilities for these hyperscale environments. It addresses bottlenecks that copper connections simply hit a wall on. And that allows for significantly higher performance per watt and ultimately a lower total cost of ownership for deploying these massive AI systems.
That really makes Marvell sound like they're right at the heart of how these next-gen AI infrastructures are getting built. So where do they actually stand within this, rapidly evolving landscape? Are they a dominant player or are they carving out more of a specific niche?
Well, Marvell has certainly emerged as a key player, no doubt about it, in this XPU-style custom accelerator space. Now, are they bigger than Broadcom? No, not yet. But Marvell's rapidly becoming the second largest provider of custom cloud silicon, specifically for AI, measured by market share.
Second largest, okay.
And their strategy is built on this deep integrated co-development with the hyperscalers. They're not just selling off-the-shelf chips, they're becoming the silicon partner for the hyperscalers themselves.
Right, like with AWS Trainium.
Exactly. They're the silicon partner behind Amazon AWS's Trainium AI processors. And they're also working very closely with Microsoft on its Maya AI chip project. And their recent breakthroughs really show their leadership here. They've unveiled a new HBM-based XPU architecture, get this, with 25% more compute capacity and 33% more memory density than their previous generation.
While improving power efficiency, too.
While improving power efficiency, yes. And then you have those XPUs with the integrated silicon photonics, the CPO we talked about, for that massive bandwidth scaling. So it's not just about faster individual chips, it's about strategically owning the interconnect fabric that lets hyperscalers build these truly enormous interconnected AI superclusters of the future.
Okay.
This really positions Marvell as a leader in custom AI accelerators for data centers. They're already delivering these tailored solutions that offer superior performance per watt and a real competitive advantage for their cloud partners.
It sounds like Marvell is, as you kind of hinted earlier, positioning itself as the network architect for the AI age. Very strategic. But, they can't be the only ones seeing this massive opportunity. Who are the other big players in this XPU race? How does Marvell really differentiate itself in what sounds like a very crowded, very critical space?
That's a really important question, looking at the competitive environment. And you're right, it's crowded. Several major semiconductor players are right at the forefront, each with their own angle.
Okay, like who?
Well, first you've got Broadcom, AVGO. They are arguably the market leader right now in custom AI ASICs, which lines up pretty well with this XPU tech. They capture a huge chunk, maybe 60-70% of the custom AI chip market.
60 to 70%, wow.
Yeah, they work closely with Google for their TPUs, the tensor processing units, and also with Meta. Broadcom is projecting really rapid growth in AI chip revenue, aiming for something like $12.2 billion in fiscal 2024.
Okay, so Broadcom's the giant. Who else?
Then, of course, there's NVIDIA, the de facto leader in AI processors through their dominant GPUs, right? While their bread and butter has been general-purpose GPUs, they're increasingly moving towards more XPU-like solutions. Think tightly integrated CPU, GPU, and networking.
Like Grace Hopper.
Exactly. Their Grace Hopper Superchip and their NVLink technologies, NVLink C2C Fusion. And interestingly, they even license NVLink to others, including Marvell, actually, so they're influencing the whole ecosystem.
Interesting dynamic.
Then you have Advanced Micro Devices, AMD. AMD is pushing really aggressively with an XPU-like approach with their MI300 series APUs, that's accelerated processing units.
Right, CPU, GPU, HBM all together.
Yep, all in one package. The MI300 is expected to be a serious challenger to NVIDIA in the data center. And don't forget, AMD's strategic acquisition of Xilinx adds powerful FPGA tech, field programmable gate arrays, and adaptive computing, further diversifying their XPU-style portfolio.
Okay, so AMD's definitely in the mix. What about Intel?
Intel, INTC. They were actually an early proponent of the whole XPU concept. Verbally, at least. They've had some setbacks, though, like with their integrated CPU plus GPU project, Falcon Shores.
Right, I remember that.
But despite challenges, they still contribute significantly. They have their foundational server CPUs, discrete GPUs like Gaudi for AI, and importantly, their one API software platform, which is designed to unify programming across all kinds of XPUs.
Trying to be the software layer.
Kind of. And then beyond the big guys, you've got other players, a whole dynamic ecosystem of specialized startups. Think GraphCore with its IPU, Cerebras Systems with that huge wafer-scale engine,
Yes,
Sampadova.
the specialists.
Plus things like data processing units, DPUs, from companies like Pensando, which AMD now owns, and NVIDIA's Bluefield. These are crucial specialized chips for offloading networking and security tasks. And we can't forget the cloud providers themselves, Amazon, Google, Microsoft. They're huge drivers, setting requirements, and sometimes even designing their own chips in-house.
Okay, that is a truly dynamic and incredibly competitive space. So given that Broadcom has such a massive share of the custom AI chip market, is Marvell really a leader, like you said, or maybe more a strong niche player fighting uphill against a giant? What really gives them the edge to compete here?
Yeah, that's a critical distinction to make. While Broadcom certainly commands a larger overall market share in custom ASICs generally, Marvell is carving out a very strategic and strong niche, specifically in custom cloud silicon for AI, and particularly focusing on the interconnects and those specialized AI accelerators, and crucially, leveraging their early lead in co-packaged optics.
So the focus is narrower but deeper.
Exactly. It's not just about making any single chip. It's about owning that foundational plumbing, as we called it, that lets hyperscalers scale their AI infrastructure effectively and powerfully. Their edge really comes from those deep co-development partnerships, AWS, Microsoft. They're not just vendors, they're becoming deeply embedded, almost indispensable partners in designing these custom solutions.
Embedded.
And that CPO technology, the co-packaged optics, that's a significant barrier to entry. It requires highly specialized expertise, huge R&D investment. It gives Marvell a substantial, though maybe not insurmountable, lead in this very cutting-edge area.
Okay, that deeper strategic role, especially with the optics, that paints a much clearer picture of their competitive advantage. So, with Marvell solidifying this position, demonstrating this cool tech, the big question for a lot of people listening is, how does this translate financially? What does this aggressive push into XPU actually mean for Marvell's revenue, its margins, its overall valuation?
Right, and this is where the XPU story really reinforces a pretty bullish outlook for Marvell, based on Kerry's analysis. Let's break it down.
Okay.
First, stronger revenue growth trajectory. These XPU innovations are clearly resonating with the hyperscalers. It validates Marvell's strategy. They've locked in AWS for Trainium, and they landed a second major customer, widely thought to be Microsoft, back in 2024.
That's huge.
It is. And their next-gen XPUs, remember, 25% more compute, over 30% higher memory capacity. That's driving serious momentum. Kerry's original analysis was projecting maybe $8–10 billion in revenue by fiscal 26-27. With this XPU traction, Marvell looks well-positioned to potentially exceed that.
Wow.
They might even hit their target of $2.5 billion in AI-related sales by 2026, which would be a massive leap.
Wow. Okay. What about margins? Custom work can be tricky there sometimes.
That's true. Second point, upside to margin improvement. While, custom XPU projects might initially have slightly lower gross margins, lots of R&D, bespoke design, they tend to yield really strong margins as they scale up and mature.
The scaling effect.
Exactly. Marvell's innovations deliver better performance per watt, lower total cost for AI workloads. That justifies premium pricing. Plus, high utilization of their cutting-edge R&D, like their advanced 3-nanometer designs, which are way more power-efficient and dense in their sophisticated packaging techniques, that directly improves profitability, boosts the bottom line, the EPS.
Okay. Better margins over time and valuation. How does this change how the market sees them?
That's the third piece, competitive position and valuation multiple. Marvell's deep entrenchment with these top cloud firms, really driven by their proprietary XPU tech, gives the market a lot of confidence. This isn't just about current revenue, it's about their strategic importance, their future relevance in this AI build-out.
So the market might pay more for that.
Potentially, yes. If maybe a forward earnings multiple in the low 20s was assumed before, this new foundational role in AI infrastructure could easily justify expanding that into the mid-20s. Think about how NVIDIA is valued. It's not just current GPU sales, right? It's for their indispensable, almost platform-like role in the whole AI ecosystem. Marvell's building a similar kind of indispensable position, but in the custom silicon and interconnect layer.
That's a really compelling argument for a higher valuation. So, okay, let's get to the numbers. What does this all mean for the projected stock price? What are Kerry's revised targets for January 2026, 2027, and 2028, given this, well, increasingly bullish outlook?
All right, so considering all these factors, Kerry is indeed leaning significantly more bullish on Marvell's prospects now.
Okay.
For January 2026, the moderate or base case projection was around $100 to $120. That could now be nudged firmly toward the upper end, maybe $120, perhaps even a bit higher. The aggressive scenario, which was previously looking at maybe $130, $150, that now looks much more attainable. Marvell could potentially approach that $130 level, even in a strong bull case scenario.
So a definite upward shift for 2026. What about further out?
For January 2027, the moderate scenarios are now raised to the $140, $160 range. That's a noticeable increase compared to the prior $130, $150 projection.
Okay, $140 to $160 for 27 moderate and 2028.
And for January 2028, the moderate scenario sees an even more significant bump, raised to perhaps $180, $200. That's up from the previous $160, $180 range. And that's assuming, of course, that these XPU design wins and the adoption rate continue to accelerate as expected.
Right. So essentially, the XPU tech and Marvell's execution here significantly increase the probability that they'll outperform those earlier growth forecasts, leads to higher stock price targets down the road. But beyond just the numbers, how does this new information affect the overall qualitative analysis? The moderate scenario we usually evaluate companies against. Does the story change?
That's a crucial point, yes. It absolutely shifts the lens through which we view Marvell now.
How so?
Well, first, highlighting XPU technology and strategy. The analysis would now really emphasize Marvell's XPU architecture as the absolute centerpiece of its strategy, right under strategic investments and growth initiatives. It would stress Marvell's clear leadership in this whole paradigm shift towards custom accelerators and its distinct technological edge, especially being first to market with co-packaged optics in these high-performance accelerators.
Makes sense. Putting it front and center. Second, improved outlook for moderate scenario. The confidence level, or maybe the score we'd assign for achieving that moderate scenario, it gets significantly increased. What might have been seen as, say, a 50% probability before, that could easily bump up to 60, 70% now. It reflects much greater conviction that Marvell can not only hit those targets, but potentially even surpass them.
So the moderate case becomes more likely.
Yeah, it effectively shifts the moderate case towards being more like a slightly optimistic base case, because the growth assumptions for their AI segment feel much less risky now.
Okay. What about the actual parameters of that scenario?
Third, adjusting scenario parameters. The moderate case financials themselves would likely be adjusted to be a bit more ambitious. Higher projected revenue specifically from cloud ASICs, maybe slightly better gross margins by 2027 due to that scaling effect we talked about. Any kind of numeric scoring or qualitative grade for Marvell's overall prospects would definitely be upgraded, giving them high marks for their exceptional execution on custom silicon.
Right, reflecting the improved outlook. And risks.
Yeah.
Does the picture change there? Fourth, risk assessment updates. Now, while the XPU story is overwhelmingly positive, the revised analysis would still need to maintain a balanced view. It would note the intense competition, Broadcom, NVIDIA, those startups, the cloud guys themselves.
Still a tough neighborhood.
Absolutely. Risks like, say, losing a major design win down the road would still be mentioned. But given their current progress, those risks perhaps appear more manageable now. Overall, the risk-reward profile within that moderate scenario is clearly improved, tilting more favorably towards reward.
So summing that up, the revised analysis would present Marvell's XPU initiative not just as a growth driver, but as a core strength, conveying much greater confidence in the company hitting and maybe even exceeding its moderate scenario milestones, assuming this XPU adoption keeps accelerating.
Exactly. The focus really shifts from will they meet the moderate case to maybe how much can they exceed it. This XPU technology, it's clearly more than just a buzzword. It's a fundamental shift in how computing is evolving, especially for these incredibly demanding AI workloads.
And Marvell technology, with its specific innovations, custom AI accelerators, HBM, and especially that co-packaged optics piece, seems exceptionally well positioned to capitalize on this profound trend. You have to say, their disciplined execution has certainly strengthened their outlook. So what stands out to you, our listener, after this deep dive?
Their story really illustrates a powerful concept, I think. If these specialized processing units, like XPUs, are truly the future of AI and high-performance computing, if they're fundamentally changing how data centers get built, well, then the semiconductor industry is likely just the beginning of this kind of shift.
Okay. Here's where it gets really interesting then. If specialized custom solutions are disrupting semiconductors because of AI, what other foundational industries might see a similar, maybe radical shift? Moving away from general purpose approaches towards highly specialized custom solutions when they're faced with entirely new disruptive demands.
That's definitely something for you to mull over. Where else might this pattern play out?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll be back with another deep dive soon.
There you have it. Do you see why I depend on Samantha? Do you see why I depend on AI to make decisions for me? I see the price of the stock has gone up in Marvell. I do a little bit of research. Most of it's over my head. I don't really understand it. And then Samantha and Bard put it in words that I understand. They walk me through the document. I understand now why Marvell is going to go up. It is probably going to reach the $200 price by January the 1st of 2028. Prior to AI, I would not have had a clue. This is the biggest change in the world of investing in the stock market, and now is the time to get in front of it. If you want this kind of information, if you want to make informed decisions on Marvell, on Broadcom, on Nvidia, on any other stock, or at least of the 60 that I follow, you need to get on the bus. You need to join the tribe. You need to come to our website, try the 14-day free trial. After 14 days, if you want to stay in, we'll hit your credit card for $29.95, less than $1 a day, and you can have Kerry, Samantha, Bard, Trent, and Mark doing your research for you and helping you make better investment decisions. This is the future. You're looking at it. Take advantage of it.